Pop Jedi. I'm, of course, Rob DiLauro. With me, as always, is Miss Jennasaywhat. Jenna, what is going on?
Not too much, Rob.
And you know what? We are back, and we are at our own brand new YouTube channel. So please like and subscribe at the Pop Jedi YouTube channel that is official. All the numbers and everything are ours. Thank you guys so much for your continued love and support. Thank you to the Mutant fam. Thank you to the horror fans out there, the comic book fans, Darcy, the mail girl from Joe Bob Briggs' Last Drive-In. So many people were so supportive in getting us to the smallest number that we can, so we can actually, help our algorithm and help our journey. And we're so thankful for you guys. You have no idea. It was such a great help.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, this is the Pop Jedi YouTube channel, and we are here for episode 26 after how long of a hiatus? It was like 2.5 weeks?
Yeah, it's like 2.5 weeks, something like that. Not too long.
No, not too long, but it felt like forever. So we are actually going to be talking about a Joel Schumacher classic tonight. And if you guys weren't paying attention to the promos, apparently Corey Feldman was, but we're going to be talking about The Lost Boys, which is probably one of the greatest vampire films of all time, if not the best. I think a lot of people would probably say it is absolutely the best. But we're going to get to that and have that conversation. It is the anniversary for The Lost Boys, and we decided, you know what, do something really exciting, do something different out of the box, for our first episode out. Mm-hmm. And we're doing The Lost Boys instead of, touching on Marvel or something like that. And we're going to get back to that, guys. So don't worry. It's going to be great. And if you're a horror fan, so we're going to get to Top Jedi. Anybody new to the channel, this is where Jenna and myself actually talk about the latest news of the week. And since we've been gone for so long, and not to mention it was just a huge week anyway, we got so much to talk about. So, Jenna, what is going on in Top Jedi?
So, Eternals, the new trailer for it came out, and bless them for using the song End of the World by Skeeter Davis. That song has become like so macabre and dark now, and it speaks volumes, because coming after, Endgame and Infinity War and all the Marvel chaos that's happening, having the Eternals come in, especially on that song, is, I have to say, perfect choice for the song. They speak about Iron Man, and they call him Captain Rogers, about like who's going to take over for them, and they're all bantering back and forth. It's gorgeous. The whole show looks incredible. Angelina Jolie looks, oh my gosh, I am incredibly excited to see this TV series. Oh my God, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, I think the thing that I love the most about this trailer in particular is that, when the first trailer was dropped, we honestly didn't have any clue what the Eternals was. Mm-hmm. And, this really, kind of opened it up, like, this is what it is. This is why we had to sit behind when Thanos, was snapping half of the population out of existence. We weren't allowed to interfere, and only at this point for this situation can we actually step up. Yep. I thought the trailer was really beautifully done in that regard of, just really letting the cat out of the bag when it comes to the story. And like you said, I mean, this is directed by, the first woman of color to win an Oscar, which is crazy. Like, I can't believe that we're actually saying that in 2021. But Chloe Zhao is, she's just got this aesthetic that looks, even the special effects within the trailer, look like they're all part of like a landscape. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it feels very.
It flows very well together, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. And that's a thing that, I noticed with a lot of these new phase films, like Shang-Chi also looks gorgeous.
Yes. Very beautifully done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really excited for this phase. It's just kind of like all over the place. And at the same time, it just all kind of makes sense because, nothing really makes sense, but
right.
If you're watching
screwing up, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Like if you're watching, shout out to What If, by the way, if you guys aren't watching What If, it's fantastic. Yeah. When it first started, it was actually kind of paint by numbers. It was just kind of switching one role to another. What if Peggy Carter became Captain America? And then of
And I
course,
love that design. It's chef's
mhm,
kiss, amazing.
mhm. And then of course, the awesome episode, which is very bittersweet, due to the fact that it
Mhm.
was Chadwick Boseman. Yeah, but it was just so it was just, that show's just wonderful. And
Yep.
then the last episode was basically about, what if somebody was murking Earth's mightiest heroes? Like
Hmm.
what would the world do? And shout out to Lake Bell, who's the voice of Poison Ivy. She's actually traveling two worlds now because she was
Ah,
doing the voice of Black Widow in this episode for What If. So next in Top Jedi news, we had mentioned in our Suicide Squad review that we just did for our last episode, that we are also fans of the Suicide Squad 2016. Sorry to anybody who isn't. But
it's a hill I'll die on. I don't care.
yeah, me too. Very much so. So of course there's this campaign for, championing this area cut going on, just like the Snyder cut earlier on.
Hmm.
And I really hope it comes to fruition, because David
Me
Ayer is just doing exactly what Zack Snyder did. And he's like, you know what? This storyline that I created is a lot different than what the studios wanted. So he put very nice and clear a picture of Deadshot, played by Will Smith, and Harley Quinn kissing,
hmm
being very
Yep,
romantic with each other. And I was like, I want to see that.
I do too.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's just awesome that he is, he's definitely rallying the troops, that's for sure. I mean, this is
Hmm.
all kind of a battle cry. Like, you guys need to go to Warner Brothers and you need to get this out there,
Yep.
and like he just keeps putting out all these wonderful nuggets of this story that he intended to tell, and he claims was just completely steamrolled by the studios.
Yep.
And by all the things that we talked about since this show started with Warner Brothers, I don't not believe it. So I really hope that
Yeah. Yeah.
happens. Jenna, what is going on in Top Jedi?
So Black Canary just was announced. So it seems that the DC universe is going to bring Black Canary to HBO Max, and I'm thrilled. Misha Green is going to be directing it, and she's incredible. I mean, didn't you say that she's going to be going on to greater things after Lovecraft Country? And I think that you called it on that one, because here she is working with DC and working with Black Canary. So I mean, like, this is going to be incredible. Like, I'm incredibly excited for this.
Me too. And like I've again, we're big fans of Birds of Prey. So
Yep.
seeing Journey step up as Diane and play Black Canary the way she did, was just like instantly iconic. And it would make
Yep.
sense that she would be one of the hopefully they all get a chance to shine, because Huntress could, and even Montoya could even
Oh
do
yeah.
some incredible stuff, even if it was
I
solo.
would love to see them back on the big screen.
Absolutely. What was really cool about this was that once the announcement actually happened, like Misha put out another tweet or something on Instagram where she was just like, "What do you think, guys? These are my ideas for what could come down the
Hmm.
road." And it was of course, Green Arrow, and
Yep.
the list just went on and on. And
Oh yeah, that list was long
Mhm,
and exciting. I was like, oh my God, yes to all of it. Yes to all of it.
mhm,
Next in Top Jedi is so we have the first look of the live action Cowboy Bebop,
mhm,
and it looks so good. They stuck with a lot of the same like costume design. John Cho as Spike Spiegel, he looks incredible.
mhm,
It translated so well onto into real life.
mhm.
Then you also have Mustafa Shakir as Jet Black, and he looks incredible as well. You also have Danielle Pineda as Faye Valentine,
Mhm,
and you also have Ein, the data dog. So
mhm.
like everybody is in there. They look incredible. It looks like they're sticking with the true design, which I applaud, because anime fans. I'm not a huge anime fan, but like a lot of the anime fans are die hard And man, does John Cho look good in that suit.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Oh my God.
Last but not least in Top Jedi, of course, if you were a fan of Marvel, or you follow any kind of social media, or you don't live under a rock, or you follow, people that are speculating when this freaking trailer was going to come out, nobody had any clue. Nobody, had any inclination what Kevin Feige was going to do. Is there going to be a trailer? Are they going to put out the first Marvel movie without a trailer? Nobody knew. And then, of course, Sunday, there was a pretty wild leak that actually happened late in the day, which was the trailer with unfinished special effects. And you did kind of get the gist of what it was. But then CinemaCon, again, if you're not there, you're not going to see it. But thankfully, they gave us the trailer. And yeah, I mean, look, all I have to say about this trailer is, I love Tom Holland as Peter Parker, you know what I mean? And, but the fact that Dr. Stephen Strange is part of another property, I'm super, super stoked about that.
Me too.
Super, super stoked. And, I mean, it's great because you don't necessarily really know what's going on within the trailer. You don't even know if that's Doctor Strange at all. You know what I mean? Like, it could be somebody else. If somebody says Mephisto, I'm going to restrain them. Because it's not Mephisto, okay? But yeah, it looked wonderful. And then, of course, if you're a Sam Raimi fan, they just gave you all the Tobey Maguire you could always want. And of course, you see Green Goblin's pumpkin bomb.
Boy.
You hear Willem Dafoe.
I'm beyond excited to have Green Goblin back. I love Green Goblin. He's one of my favorite characters in the Spideyverse.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled that he's back. I'm more thrilled that it's William Dafoe because he made the best Green Goblin.
Oh yeah, most certainly. And then of course the piece de la resistance was of course Mr. Alfred Molina, who everybody knew was going to be in this freaking movie because months ago he just said, "Yeah, I'm playing Dr. Octopus. And I'm 70 years old. What are they going to do? Fire me? I don't care." You know what I mean? Like, he really doesn't care. So he was just dropping all kinds of stuff. But you got to see him, as Dr. Octavius, and it was pretty wild.
I know. I love it.
It's pretty wild. Maybe it is Dormammu. Maybe it is truly like the dark portal of Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness actually happening right in front of our eyes.
I think so. I think that they're tied.
I hope so.
I think
because Tom Holland actually said in an interview the other day, I guess when the trailer came out, he was talking about it, and he said, "It's much wilder than you guys have even seen. Like, this is nothing."
That's awesome.
This is just a glimpse of what this movie is. And, like I said, I just love Doctor Strange so much that I'm just excited to see him.
Oh, agreed.
In anything. And I really hope that, we just get that post-credit scene where maybe he's in Sanctum Sanctorum or something. Maybe he's doing something, some sort of spell or whatever. And then all of a sudden, you see this, this red visage behind him. It happens to be the Scarlet Witch coming, for his help, maybe, or something.
I would just start screaming.
I would die.
I hope no one else is in that theater because it's going to be a nightmare being anywhere near me.
If I see Elizabeth Olsen at the end of any movie at this point, I'm going to freak out.
Yep.
And I will say this as well. I know this multiverse is going on with Marvel and it's really cool, but man, I'm probably going to need resuscitation when I see Michael Keaton as Batman. I'm probably going to pass out.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to pass out.
I get that. I'm probably just going to cry.
Well, that too. Yeah. But he actually, he was just doing a movie called The Protege recently, and he admitted it straight up. I am Batman. I am in this movie. It's not a cameo, and I am in the Cape and Cowl. So get ready.
I'm ready.
As we said, we wanted to do something, more fun and raucous and exciting when it comes to, just celebrating not even just the fact that we have our own channel, but, celebrating just the journey that we're all about to take together as a team. Myself and Jenna, our producer Rob, Jade, who's eventually going to be another editor. We are just a small team, and we really feel like we're at the top of our game right now. So so early on, but but we also wanted to celebrate the anniversary of a classic. And when I saw the anniversaries rolling around when it comes to film, what better movie to basically like flex our celebration muscles than the Lost Boys. I mean, basically the mantra of this film is sleep all day, party all night. There is nothing like really like moody and terrible about it. Although the actual inner workings of of the storyline are kind of depressing and very very naturalistic when it comes to the breaking down of a divorce, losing money, having to move to a new place, where you're unfamiliar and you do feel like an absolute stranger. There are those little notes within, but it's just a fun movie. It's just fun. So we wanted to talk about the Lost Boys, and just a little bit of history before we start here. Basically this movie was supposed to be like a Goonies type film. It was supposed to be with little kids, a little kid vampires and chubby little Cub Scouts that would be the Frog Brothers. And Joel Schumacher, thankfully, in his infinite wisdom and his infinite gayness, said no. He said, I want fire, I want blood, I want the hottest young teenagers that I can possibly think of. I want a hot, sweaty saxophone player. And I
want enough homoeroticism that will span the ages.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely. He succeeded.
Absolutely.
I'm here for it.
But the thing is, like, even with like, this is absolutely 100% in so many ways a gay youth allegory. And and what's really interesting about it is that just like something like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, something of that ilk, that's completely like blatantly openly gay, like nobody cares, nobody thinks about that. You know what I mean? They're just watching a vampire film that they grew up with when they were kids. You know what I mean? It wasn't beaten into your brain.
No.
If you were paying attention, you could absolutely see those parallels, but it wasn't like message, this is it, this is what it is. It was just a vampire film, and you enjoyed it, and you loved the shit out of it. So I wanted to ask you first, when it comes to your experience with the Lost Boys, when did it actually first come into your radar, and what's the history in terms of you as a fan of this film?
So I started watching it, like, I think the first time I watched it I was probably like 9 or so, but whenever I first watched it, I was like, whoa, this is like everything. This is like goth, like an alt heaven for me. So like I ended up taking quite a few pages from the Lost Boys and their style and their kind of like dress and stuff. So like as I grew up, I kind of took pages from that. Like I think I was in my early 20s and I started to kind of do my makeup like this, but like have like 80s style, but I was still very goth. And like I love how all the subgenres of like the alt community are all represented in the beginning of the movie. Now of course those are just people that are on the street. They weren't actors, they weren't anything, they were just random people off the street. And I love that they did that because it showed all the styles during that time, like the alt culture and the goth and also your punk scene and things like that. So I love that. So growing up having that, it really did kind of like edge me into being like a more like crazy outlandish goth and whatnot. But as far as like the rest of the movie went, I loved it. I thought that they didn't give the characters enough of like backstories. Like I'm like, well, how did they all turn? Like, how did this family even happen? Like, there were so many questions that I felt were left unanswered, but I still love the film. Like
I was Lost Boys for a while in my life for sure. And that was, because my dad was he showed me this VHS And he, basically said I could take it home. I was probably about 10 years old or something like that,
Mhm.
maybe even younger. And like I wasn't I wasn't exactly like terrified of everything, but I was still in that, like that kid stage where I was just like, I
I
got
get
affected
that.
by stuff. But that movie, for some reason, just like really just hit me in the warmest spot. And like, even as a kid, like it didn't freak me out at all. It was just so awesome. Like everything, like, from the effects makeup to the,
Hmm.
all of, and like, even though it is, kind of like, this human drama for the most part, blended into this, fun, vampire film. It never felt like it was talking at you when you're a child, to the point where like, oh, I'm small. I don't
Yeah.
understand, what's going on or whatever. Because I was actually going through that kind of stuff. My mother, divorced my dad, and all that. So I knew
And
kind of, what that world was like.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it kind of felt like it wasn't talking at me, it was talking to me for the most part.
Yeah.
Um,
I second that with the divorce kid thing. Is it definitely hits you
mhm.
the like right way with like someone that came from that kind of family life.
Yeah, because like once that actually happens, like even though you're not necessarily like the catalyst for, like this love gone wrong,
Mhm.
you are basically cannon fodder when it comes to, what actually occurs from that point. Do you go with your father? Do you go to live with your mother? You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, where do you go? You go wherever you need to go.
You go to
Um,
the murder capital of the United States.
you go to Santa Carla, yeah. But yeah, so when it comes to this movie, I think I burnt the VHS out. Like,
Yeah.
I burnt the VHS out, and I absolutely adored this movie. And of course, when I actually became a teenager and I started growing up and stuff, like I am a lost boy, dude. Like
Yep.
I totally am. Like, hung out and partied, and I drank, and stayed up all
Same.
night and all of that.
Yeah.
I think I've even hung off a bridge before. Not like that, but pretty close.
No.
Like, I've done all that stuff. So yeah, like I was so akin to like the Lost Boy lifestyle.
Yeah.
Um, plus I was listening to like, rock and metal and stuff at the time, and that, probably like, seeped in my brain as well. But, you know, um, I didn't become Sam Emerson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was the brother that was on the fringes and like loved every minute of it. Like,
Hmm.
what did you think of Sam and Michael's relationship with each other? Did you think it was, kind of faulty, or do you think they had something good?
I think that they did. I think that they truly cared for each other. I think that like they just have this brother connection. Like
Hmm.
they really do care about each other. I think that Michael really knew that he was kind of spiraling but didn't know how to ask for help. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's also a huge thing that we're trying to break that stigma is like, guys can talk about their feelings. They're allowed to cry. They're allowed to feel feelings.
Yeah.
And I feel like back, especially in the 80s, back in that time, it wasn't acceptable. You couldn't just be like, hey man, I'm having issues controlling my rate. I don't know what's going on with me. Like sitting down with your brother or sitting down with like a family member. That's why like he kind of like, ignores his mom whenever she's like, we're friends, like let's,
Mm,
talk to me. Like,
mm.
and I feel like that shows the times, and I'm glad that we're changing away from that because there's such an unhealthy response.
Let's talk about mom for a second. Diane Weiss, Lucy. Um, she What's interesting about her is that, she's got a heart of gold. She cares about her kids. There's no question
Oh
about
yeah.
it. But like she's also got like a realistic human mechanism. Like, I met this man, I'm having a good time, and I'm
Yeah.
going out. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care about, like your problems. Like, honestly, I just want to go out and have my
Yep.
own life as well. And I
Yeah.
thought that was great.
But the second that they call her and there's all this chaos, she's in that truck getting back home like immediately. What a great mom. Like she's like, she puts her kids first, and I love her as a mom. Like perfect.
Yeah, most definitely. But I just love that mechanism for that character, because it could have just been like she could have just been a martyr, when it comes to her own life.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm a mother and I'm stuck, and I live with my father that has not a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, and he might not even have a fucking pot in the house. But she was just more realistic in the regard of like, yeah, I want to live my life too, man. So we were introduced to Grandpa, and what's really interesting about this is, like we were talking about in the beginning, like when you're a child of divorce, you go wherever you're gonna go, and like you're just gonna make whatever you can out of whatever you've got. And this is I mean, he's got a ranch, he's got horses, he's got some some animals, he's got a nice like old classic whip in the garage. He's got some stuff. And he's just really cool. He like keeps to himself, so, don't touch my root beer, and don't touch my cookies, and we're fine. Like, this shelf is mine. Don't touch anything that, what I mean, in this shelf. But other than that, he finds out they took the car, and he goes, did you put gas in it? And
well,
they
now
go,
you
no,
know.
Grandpa. Well, now you know. You got to put gas in it. But yeah, he was just amazing, because obviously, we're going to get to the, to the end, but he's so disarming that you would never, ever catch on to that finale. You'd never would. Never would.
You never would.
Mm-mm.
Never, ever would.
No, he was just kind of like in the cut, incognito in the shadows. It's just Grandpa. He's cute. You know what I mean? He's got no money. He likes to go out on dates with, with older women, and, like use like Windex's cologne. Like, that's the kind of guy he does.
the just like, oh yeah. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, that's so bad on your skin. No.
To be fair, not that I've done that, but somebody who likes to clean the house, because I am a little bit of a clean freak, Windex does smell pretty good. Just I don't know if it's a fragrance, but it does smell really good. And of course, Sam, treks out to, to the boards, and he sees a comic shop, which, by the way, just have to let you know, he says that comic is a real serious book. It's not. It's look it up. I can't remember the number of the book he asked for. It's not a serious book at all.
No.
So he is actually encounters the Frog Brothers, of course.
Named after Edgar Allan Poe, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
Brothers are.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, like when it comes to like, like we talked about, like aliens and stuff like that. And Sam Emerson, Corey Haim is definitely, part of that fold. Honestly, aside from maybe, we mentioned Goonies in passing, or like, like maybe the kids from Stranger Things, or Newt from Aliens, or something like that. These are probably the most iconic kids there's ever been.
Agreed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on the Frog Brothers?
Oh my God. I love Corey Feldman. I grew up watching The Burbs a lot, like far too many times. I have that thing memorized at this point. I love Corey Feldman. I thought that he did such a great job at this role, and it just, I don't know, he seemed to really enjoy the part as well. While he was actually playing it. I just really liked him as the character. I thought that they brought a cute element to it, where they're like, dude, you have to read this comic, and he's like, I'm not really into horror comics, and they're like, no, you have to, because they're on to the fact that there's vampires, and they're like, no, dude, you have to, because it may keep you safe one day. He's like, I put my number on the back. I hope you don't ever have to use it. Like,
pray you never need to call us.
Yeah, I hope you never have to call us.
I never need to call you. Sure. They're not very emotional. And the only real time we actually really see them get any kind of emotion is like through fear, or like, we did something good. Yeah. Like, that's pretty much it. But, like later on in the tribe was terrible. I love The Thirst. The Thirst was a lot of fun. That's the third one. And I just want to let you guys know that there was actually a direct sequel from Vertigo Comics, which kind of played on, it was more of this female coven, but David was in it. And I got to say this because we obviously have to talk about Mr. Tim Capello and his saxophone. We find out in this comic that Tim Capello is a vampire hunter as well, called the Believer. How amazing is that?
That is the best thing I've heard in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, let's talk about Mr. Tim Capello for a second. That's the greatest muscular, sweaty sax you'll ever get in your life.
How much oil did they use on him? Mm-hmm. It looks like you could just touch him and your hand would just like fly off of him. Like, yeah, they oiled that man up. They knew what they were doing. They were like,
I'm going to say this right now. I never in my life thought that saxophone was a cool instrument, but that mofo made it very, very cool. You know, like that song cooks. It cooks. Yeah. It's so good. And the soundtrack, just as a whole, is just, you know, like the Crow soundtrack or Forrest Gump soundtrack. It's legendary. It's so amazing.
Agreed.
You know, from In Excess to Lou Gramm.
Yeah.
Lost in the Shadows to, you know what I mean? Like it's
they put a lot of genres into that, the soundtrack, which I thought was really cool because it kind of gave you a chance, because at the time you know you had to get tapes and you just had to listen to the soundtrack all the way through. So
I was a proud owner of the Lost Boys soundtrack tape.
Nice.
Very proud.
I think that's really cool that they incorporated a lot of different genres of music into the soundtrack to kind of allow people to kind of explore as well. Because at the time you didn't have the option of just going online and being like, oh, what's like new music out? It's like, no, you didn't get that. You either heard it on the radio or you didn't hear it.
So of course, you know, Michael treks out into the night, and you know, like he sees Star right away.
One of two.
And you know, I think the most fascinating thing about her is that you're never really you're never really given the idea that she was set up as a decoy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just felt like, like young love, he just sees this beautiful woman on the beach and goes, oh, I totally need to talk to her.
Yeah, totally smitten by her. Yeah.
But then if you go back and you watch it, like it all kind of plays out.
Yeah.
She was the bear trap, you know what I mean? From the very beginning.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So of course, you know, we're introduced to David and the rest of the crew. I mean, it's like, what is there to say? Like, you know, just from head to foot, like some of the coolest characters you'll ever see in your life. And you were saying before that, you know, you don't get a lot of exposition, you know, of who these guys are, and, you know, they only drop their names to each other maybe like a few times. I think the only real name that's really like uttered in the movie is Michael's, and it's uttered a lot.
They each had their individual like alt goth styles.
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of have one that's like a little bit more like rocker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have the trench coat, you have like, it's all kind of like there, and I appreciate the fact that they kind of did that. Like,
yeah, they were very much there. In, you know, like, you know, one was probably more MTV than the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, we really don't have to say it to, you know, like it's not a big secret, but of course, you know, Michael does find out that these four are absolutely 100% vampires, which we do see from the very first frame of the movie, which is another just amazing effect, because you don't see them, you know, in like some sort of Bram Stoker's, like, you know, bat makeup or anything. You just hear this and you just, you know what I mean? Like, you just know they're flying around.
Yeah.
You know, once somebody just gets scooped up and you don't really see anything, oh God. So effective.
Honestly, that's terrifying. I'm glad that they waited to show them in their like more vampire form until the later on in the movie, because it really, like, vampires are so like hypersexualized.
Yeah.
And I felt like they made them dark, and like I felt like they made them scary. So you looked at them and you're like, whoa, I don't want to be like attacked by them, because they were just like, they weren't doing the like, you know, biting the neck necessarily. They were like ripping them apart. And you're just like, whoa, like this is a little too scary for me. Like, so they kind of brought in a different element to the vampire story instead of just making them.
Yeah, that's most certainly, that's one of my absolute favorite scenes of all time.
Oh yeah.
Is where, and that's the other thing that I love about it too, is that, you know, like it did kind of have this sort of like suburbia, like West Side Story, you know, vibe or whatever. And we knew nothing about this confrontation, nothing, you know what I mean? But there was opposing gangs, like the Warriors or something. Like they were just looking at these guys in the fire pit like, hate them so much. And it's just like, you know what? Let's kill two birds with one stone. Kill them, drink their blood, throw them on the, you know, on the pyre, and you know, we get to do two things. We never mentioned Max before. You know, like it's just, well, he's a man of my own heart because of course he owns a video store. And you know, I think the greatest thing about, you know, this kid's character in particular is again, this is another red herring. You would never figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know, what are your thoughts on Max and that whole kind of
whenever
narrative?
He like at the end, whenever he like flips that switch, like that actor nailed that. Like
Edward Herman.
Going from like, you know, being like, oh, ha ha ha, and just being like, you know, innocent, and then all of a sudden the switch flipping and him being like, well, they need a mother, and it's just like, whoa, like it's
but
like
the clues are there, you know what I mean? Like he's at the video store, he gets attacked by the boys, right? You just, you know, you see their motorcycles, you know, like outside his house. You know, he's got the most demonic dog I've probably ever seen in my life. You know what I mean? Like protecting him. And you know, like even though it's just briefly like detailed within this movie, like it's all of course in vampires everywhere, you know, and you know, like the comics that they actually give Sam or whatever. Which, as much as I love that, you know, I love that prop, it doesn't really have anything to do with the movie at all, except for the fact that their phone numbers in the back. Like that's pretty much it. Are there any scenes that like really like stand out for you? Like I said, you know, like that campfire scene is like totally it for me. That is so good.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I am a Twilight fan. Just saying.
Hey man.
Now
I like some of this stuff too.
With that being said, Twilight was not the first vampires that sparkled. These vampires actually were, because if you look at the scene when Corey Feldman stabs Marco and the blood goes everywhere, there is glitter in that blood. And whenever Corey is outside and like all of them are covered in blood, it is glitter blood. So everyone take note of that one. Stop giving Twilight shit for that. Thank you. That is my TED Talk. Thank you for coming. I'll see you guys.
You know what? Listen, you can drop the mic after that. But no, you're absolutely right. It did feel like there was some sort of like there's like some spangly glitter or something, you know, within.
Oh no, there absolutely was, because whenever you look at them outside, they are just covered in glitter. So yeah, they are. Twilight wasn't the first ones, guys.
Oh, that's
actually Lost Boys.
Oh, that's got Schumacher written all over it, all over it. So yeah, you know, like, so you know, like we'll get into the finale here. So you know, like, the Frog Brothers and Sam have to, you know, band together, and you know, it's a really cool, you know, kind of montage where, you know, they're riding around on their bikes and they're getting holy water from the church, you know, while there's a you know, a bris or a communion or something going on, and everybody kind of looks back at them or whatever, like they're nuts, and you know, like whole thing with garlic, and they're cutting a bunch of garlic up, and
they didn't need it.
They didn't need it because he says garlic doesn't work, boys, and he goes, try holy water, death breath. Yeah, that whole sequence is just fucking awesome, man. Like,
Yeah.
like when it, when it, like from the death by stereo to, exploding,
Yeah.
once you hit the stereo to the bathtub, that's where this movie like really goes. Like, this is when Lost Boys, because I just watched it the other day. Speaking of great vampire movie, this is Lost Boys Dusk Till Dawn moment.
Oh yeah.
And it's amazing. It's so good.
Yeah, the death scenes were incredible, and they were so 80s, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Let's give a shout out to Nanook, one of the coolest dogs ever in film.
Yeah.
Such a good boy. Good boy, Nanook.
I know, he's a good boy.
We come to find out that Max is the head vampire. Which is, in the 80s, when you're watching this is a hell of a reveal.
Yeah. Because they wouldn't have, this wasn't common. This was like the old switcheroony was definitely not something that happened that often.
No. So as Jenna said, like he basically says that his plot was to find their mother Lucy, played by Diane Wiest, and basically like make her the devil's concubine, basically. And his boys were going to connect with his boys, and they were going to be a happy family, blood-sucking Brady Bunch. You want to talk about huge reveal? This is when Grandpa, you hear his horn, and he fucking
right on through.
Comes through the house, literally impales Max with probably the biggest piece of wood I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And he explodes, and he just gets out of his truck or whatever, and he walks to the refrigerator. Everybody's covered in soot, and he's not saying anything. And Diane Wiest goes, "Dad?" And he just goes, that's the one thing I couldn't stomach about living here in Santa Carla, all the damn vampires. And Grandpa's a vampire hunter this entire time. I do have to mention this in passing because, these two films actually came out kind of consecutively, and Lost Boys just pretty much knocked it right off of its square. But Near Dark, directed by Catherine Bigelow, with Lance Henriksen and Bill Paxton, and like that is an amazing vampire movie. And they really are as different as night and day.
Yeah.
Pun intended. Where they're more nomadic and like don't have the whole fang thing going on, and it's basically like the Manson family on wheels pretty much, and they know what I mean. But that movie is just like that movie is so powerful in its own way, and as much as I love the Lost Boys, I would say contextually probably better in more things than the Lost Boys was. But like I just had to mention Near Dark. That is our show, guys. This is episode 26. We just want to make this, we just want to impart this on you. It is very important to let you know that this is, as we said before, this is our official channel. All the subscriptions and all the likes and all of it goes to us. We have so much in store, guys. We have, should we even say it, Jenna? We have this merch designed for the show in general. It's actually being crafted right now. And it's pretty
guys,
sick.
You have no idea. Let's just say that. Like we'll leave it more of a surprise, but oh my god.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So there's going to be some new artwork on the end of the show. We're going to be retiring Mr. Thomas Tenney's, and we're going to be welcoming Alfred Lays from Mexico City, his artwork to the end of every show, of course, with myself and Miss Jennasaywhat, because this is the team. Like I just, first and foremost, I just want to say, Di Marie, if you're out there and you're watching this show, we really do appreciate the dedication and everything that you put into it. We understand, whatever your idea was in terms of like, your schedule and all that stuff. We totally understand. We are there in your corner. But you know what, guys, just know that, Pop Jedi, we're here. We're just going to, me and Jen are just going to rock it. We've got, like I said, we got the artwork coming up, and we've got, the website that we're, in talks with, when it comes to the entertainment website and all that stuff. We got so much in store, but it all starts with you. This is our channel. Subscriptions and likes go to us. Please.
Yes,
for the love of all that's holy, like and subscribe. on the Pop Jedi YouTube channel, so we can continue to grow and expand this journey and take you on the ride with us.
Share it with your friends.
Live fast, die young with us. It's fun to be a vampire. Be one of us. Like and subscribe. So that is our show, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 26. We'll see you next week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.